The forest of Verdana Prime was not kind to outsiders. Marcus Webb had learned this during his 3 months of survival in its depths. The human trader had crashed his small cargo vessel during a routine supply run, and the emergency beacon had died within hours. He adapted quickly, using his wits and basic wilderness training to stay alive among the towering blue-barked trees and the predators that prowled beneath them. On this particular morning, Marcus checked his snare line with practiced efficiency. The thin wire loops were set along game trails he had identified over weeks of observation. Most were empty, as usual, but the 7th snare held something unexpected. Not the rabbit-like creature he hoped for, but a person. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with ash-gray skin and angular features that marked her as Veldrin. Her uniform was torn and stained with dark blood that seeped from a deep gash across her ribs. One leg was caught in his snare, though she had clearly stopped struggling some time ago. Her breathing was shallow, and her eyes were closed. Marcus approached cautiously. The Veldrin were known throughout the sector as exceptional warriors and hunters. Their homeworld produced some of the finest trackers in known space. This one carried no visible weapons now, though empty holsters suggested she had been armed recently. He knelt beside her and checked the wound. It was serious, but not immediately fatal if treated properly. His mind raced through possibilities. Leave her and avoid potential danger. Free her and hope for gratitude rather than aggression. Or help her, taking the risk that she might be someone worth saving. The choice, when it came, was instinctive rather than logical. Marcus had been alone too long. He cut the snare and carefully lifted her shoulders, dragging her toward his shelter. His camp was modest but functional. A lean-to constructed from fallen branches and broad leaves kept the rain off. A fire pit held cold ashes from the previous night. He had fashioned basic tools from salvaged metal and stone. It was primitive compared to the life he had known, but it was home. Marcus laid the Veldrin woman on his sleeping mat and began treating her wound. He cleaned it with boiled water from his canteen and applied a poultice made from local plants he had tested on himself weeks ago. The antiseptic properties were crude but effective. He bound the injury with strips torn from his spare shirt. She woke when he was finishing the bandage. Her eyes snapped open, silver irises focusing on him with startling intensity. Her hand moved toward her empty holster, then stopped as she registered her situation. "Easy," Marcus said, raising his hands. "You were hurt." "I helped." She studied him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was rough, but her galactic common was flawless. "You are Marcus Webb, trader, registered out of the merchant hub on Station 17. He froze. "How do you know that?" "I have been tracking you for 7 days," she said simply. "I am Rena, bounty hunter. You have a price on your head." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "For what?" "The cargo you carried. It was stolen from a syndicate warehouse. They want it back. They want you dead." "I didn't steal anything," Marcus protested. "I'm a legitimate trader. That cargo was purchased through proper channels." Rena's expression did not change. "The documentation was forged. The seller used you to move stolen goods off-world. The syndicate does not care about your innocence. Only about sending a message." Marcus sat back, processing this information. He had suspected the deal was too good, the profit margin too high. But he had needed the credits badly. Now he was paying the price for his desperation. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "If you've been tracking me for a week, you could have killed me at any point." "I could have," Rena agreed. She tried to sit up and winced, pressing a hand to her bandaged ribs. "But I fell into a ravine yesterday while pursuing you through the canyon system. My equipment was damaged. My weapons were lost. When I climbed out, a scavenger pack attacked. I barely escaped. I was trying to return to my ship when I encountered your snare. So now you're helpless, and I could leave you here to die, Marcus observed. Yes, but I didn't. No, you did not. They regarded each other in silence. Marcus made his decision. The cargo burned in the crash, he said. There's nothing to recover. If you want to collect your bounty, you'll need to get off this planet first. Your ship or mine? Mine is functional, but locked to my biosignature. Yours? Scattered across 1/2 kilometer of forest. The core is slag. Rena nodded slowly. Then we have a temporary alignment of interests. I need medical attention beyond what you have provided. You need transportation off-world. My ship has both. And when we reach your ship? That depends on many factors, Rena said. I am a professional, but I am also pragmatic. A dead bounty is worth less than a live one if the client can be convinced to accept alternatives. It was not the reassurance Marcus had hoped for, but it was honest. He could respect that. Over the next 3 days, Marcus helped Rena recover. He shared his meager food supply, dividing the small game he caught and the edible plants he had cataloged. He changed her bandages and monitored her injury for signs of infection. They talked during the long hours, carefully at first, then with growing openness. Rena told him about her training on Veldra, where children learn to track before they learn to read. She described hunts that lasted months, crossing multiple star systems to find targets who thought themselves safely hidden. She spoke of the code she followed, never accepting contracts that targeted the genuinely innocent or the defenseless. Marcus shared his own story, the trading business he had inherited from his father, the debts that accumulated after a series of bad deals and worse luck, the growing desperation that made him overlook warning signs he should have heeded. He admitted his mistakes without excuse. On the 4th day, Rena was strong enough to walk with support. They began the journey to her ship, which she had concealed in a rocky outcrop 12 kilometers from Marcus's camp. The trek was slow and difficult. Rena's injury limited her mobility, and Marcus had to help her navigate the rough terrain. They reached the ship at sunset. It was a sleek hunter-class vessel, all sharp angles and predatory design. Rena placed her palm against the hull, and a doorway irised open. The interior was sparse and functional, designed for long-range pursuit rather than comfort. Marcus helped her to the medical bay, where automated systems took over her treatment. She emerged an hour later with fresh bandages and color returning to her gray complexion. The injury will heal fully, she reported. The ship's systems are intact. We can depart within the hour. Marcus nodded. He had been expecting this moment, dreading it. So what happens now? You turn me in? Rena was quiet for a long time. She moved to the ship's cockpit and began pre-flight preparations. Marcus followed, uncertain. The Syndicate's bounty specifies death, she said finally. But bounties can be reinterpreted. Marcus Webb, human trader, died on Verdana Prime when his ship crashed. This is documented fact. However, I have found evidence that he was an unwitting courier, not a thief. This evidence will be presented to the Syndicate along with confirmation of his death. Marcus felt hope stir. And the real me? You will need a new identity, new documentation. This requires credits and contacts. I have both. Consider it payment for saving my life. She paused. I also require a partner, someone who knows trade routes and merchant protocols, someone who can provide cover for certain operations. The position includes a salary and a share of bounty proceeds. You're offering me a job? I am offering you a choice, Rena corrected. Continue as you were, always looking over your shoulder, waiting for the next hunter. Or begin again, with purpose and protection. Marcus considered the offer. It was not the life he had imagined, but it was a life. And it was being offered by someone who had every reason to kill him, but chose mercy instead. "When do we start?" he asked. Rena's expression might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with Veldrin features. "We already have. Strap in. We leave in 10 minutes." As the ship lifted off from Verdana Prime, Marcus looked down at the forest that had been his prison and his sanctuary. He had entered it as a desperate man running from consequences he barely understood. He was leaving it as something different. A partner. A survivor. Someone who had shared his last meal with a stranger and found an unexpected ally. The stars beckoned above, full of danger and possibility. For the first time in months, Marcus felt ready to face them. Behind him, Rena plotted their course to the nearest station. The hunter and the hunted, now bound by circumstance and choice. It was an improbable alliance, but the galaxy was built on such improbabilities. Sometimes salvation came from the most unexpected sources. Sometimes the person hunting you became the person who saved you. And sometimes, Marcus thought, the snare you set caught exactly what you needed to find.